him than supported him yesterday.
Yeah, well, Jim Jordan did lose 2 additional votes. Obviously, there were 20 who voted against him yesterday, now 22 today, although he did flip some people for him, but also more against him. So, this is really kind of a changing tide as we continue to kind of witness the fallout from this. I did just a short time ago ask the GOP conference chair, Elise Stefanik, kind of what the next step is now that the House is once again adjourned. She did not respond, but I did have a chance to speak with Congressman Mike Lawler of New York. He is someone who on both of these rounds has voted for former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. He told me that was his plan even prior to these votes several days ago. He said that he believes that McCarthy really was the best qualified for the job. But now he says it's time for Republicans to regroup and move forward and perhaps look at this option of extending extra powers to the interim speaker, Patrick McHenry. Take a listen to our conversation. I mean, at the end of the day, I know you've continued to vote for Kevin McCarthy. Do you want him back in the job? Or
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't vote for him for no reason. I mean, I've said from the very beginning, he never should have been removed. He's the right person to lead the conference and the House, and I'd like to see him back as Speaker. There is not consensus, clearly, on who the next Speaker should be. And so in the immediate, we need to get back to work. We need to allow Patrick McHenry to do the job as Speaker pro tem with the authority to govern. And so I think it's imperative that we immediately pass a resolution that gives him that authority. And continue to work through this process as a conference. I don't think having more floor votes really is going to solve the problem here.
I mean, is there a proposal that you back over the other? I know you have Congressman David Joyce, who may file a motion today. I know Congressman Kelly also has another motion. I mean, is there...
I would support Dave Joyce's resolution. I think it gives us the time and the ability to do what we need to do in terms of moving legislation on the floor, dealing with the challenges of the American people, and giving us the time to come together as a conference and nominate a speaker and elect them on the floor, which is obviously critically important.
In terms of putting somebody in that position on a more permanent basis, I mean, what do you say to those who feel that's just kicking the can down the road?
We can't waste any more time. And this is why Kevin McCarthy never should have been removed in the first place. To my 8 Republican colleagues and the 208 Democrats who teamed up to do this, they didn't have a plan for what was next. And that's the problem here. You don't do irrational things like this. And we're now living in a situation of paralysis and chaos that didn't have to be. And so I think it's incumbent on the 208 Democrats and the 8 Republicans to look themselves in the mirror and realize that the chaos that has ensued is a result of their action to vacate the chair. Democrats don't get to wash their hands of this and say, oh, no, not us. They voted for it.
But they also say McCarthy threw them under the bus, especially after that, vote with respect to, not only the debt limit deal, but in terms of funding the government. But in terms of funding the government,
Look,
I mean,
with all due respect, Kevin McCarthy put a bipartisan CR on the floor, and it passed overwhelmingly, as it should have. Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader, was running ads attacking me in the lead up to that. All right, so everybody's got to put their big boy pants on here and stop with the hurt feelings, and let's actually focus on the task. If you're going to remove the Speaker of the House because he said something mean on TV, I mean, give me a break. That's pathetic. So reality needs to hit everybody here that we now are in a situation where the House is paralyzed. We're in chaos because of these folks who voted to vacate the chair. So you don't get to wash your hands of it when you created this mess.
Is there any scenario where you see Kevin McCarthy getting back into the job, or have we just gone too far down the path that he could ever come back given those 8 who voted to oust him?
Look, I think anything is possible given this situation.
I mean, do you know if there are any conversations with those 8 to try to, because I know the argument is, I just know that.
I think it is important for everybody to understand. We are now at a place where there is not somebody who is getting 217 votes. Jim Jordan does not have the votes. Steve Scalise did not have the votes. And so everyone's going to have to recognize that we have to come to a consensus and get back to governing. In the immediate, I think it's imperative that we empower Patrick McHenry to serve in that capacity, but we're going to have to come to consensus.
All right, we'll let you go. Thank you so much for stopping. Really. I want to just pick up on that point in that last question that I asked Lawler about whether or not there were any conversations being had with these 8 Republicans, because the argument that many Republicans make is that, look, 96% of our conference backed Kevin McCarthy. It's these 4%. And if you think about math, because everything we're talking about up here has to do with math, wouldn't it potentially be easier to flip some of those 8 versus 22 who have now voted against Jordan? So I think that is one dynamic to watch, even though McCarthy has said many times that, he doesn't want to be nominated again. He's not putting his hat in the, in the ring. But at the same token, he did at one point a few weeks ago kind of crack that door open that if the conference were to renominate him, he'd be open to it. So not saying that that is an option going forward, but it is one to watch. It seems like it could be one on the table for now. And the more immediate, though, there seems to be growing consensus and momentum that it's time to move forward with McHenry. I also talked to Congressman Mike Gallagher a short time ago as well, off camera. He is someone who has also been mentioned as a possible consensus candidate. He's from Wisconsin. He's been working on this select committee with respect to China. Very big national security hawk. But he told me he doesn't want the job. And so even though people are throwing his name out there, because I know we hear a different name every day, he confirmed that he has no interest. And he really made an interesting analogy saying, there are so many fires right now that are going on, and that, we as a Republican conference are like firemen in the firehouse trying to put out these fires, but yet we can't figure out who's going to run shotgun. And that really kind of, I think, encapsulates the dilemma that Republicans are in right now. Errol.
Yeah, Nicole, Republicans characterize this as chaos in their caucus, and we're just watching it play out in so many ways, as you, with that great interview with Congressman Lawler, who is a relatively junior congressman, but feels that he doesn't need to be beholden to anyone there already on Capitol Hill. And with McCarthy, of course, saying he's not interested. I get frustrated anytime someone tries to have me do math, but you're right. The math makes more sense for the man who was able to get 96% of the conference under their wing and flip the 8 right-wingers who, ousted him. Well, boy, I guess the only question left for me to ask you, Nicole, is when might this next round of voting begin?
Well, I think that remains to be seen. Our understanding is that Republicans are regrouping right now, that they are meeting. And, once again, I suspect they will be discussing a path forward. Jim Jordan has made clear he wants to fight this out and will continue to fight this out. But when he reaches that breaking point as to whether he may throw in the towel remains to be seen. We've heard so much about some of these tactics that some of his supporters have employed to try to wrangle these votes, and now potentially those tables could be turned on him if folks start pressuring him to get out of the race. But as of now, and the conversations that we have had with him throughout the day, he has indicated that he intends to stay in this race. He wants to continue talking to members to see if he can win over more support, whether that's possible or not.
Right. It seems like a political flamethrower is getting burned. We'll see if he can recover. Nicole Killian, the great update for us from Capitol Hill. Thank you very much.
You bet.
The Israel-Hamas war is escalating there in the Middle East. What U.S. officials are doing to support Israel's military. Plus, the House remains without a speaker 2 weeks after ousting Kevin McCarthy. We'll look at how this chaos in Congress is impacting the 2024 presidential race. You're streaming CBS.